From the creators who brought you RuPaul's Drag Race and $1 Million Listing, this is World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome in to the Wow Report right here on Radio Andy. I'm Tom Campbell, filling in for our fearless leader, Fenton Bailey, who's out traveling the world doing business. I am joined this week by the one, the only club kid turned best-selling author, James St. James. Yes. And rounding out our little troop, coming full-time for this Wow Report is Blake Jacobs, our trusty producer, and I believe the heartthrob of the Wow Report. If you're listening
wait just a minute.
No, we're also on YouTube if you want to check out like the Wow Report. And there's a lot, we don't get a lot of comments, but they're mostly like, Blake is so hot, and they're not coming from Blake. So that's good.
I wish that translated to IRL.
Let's do the top 10 things about Blake that make us go wow next week.
Okay.
This week, we're going to do our regular format, which was we take a look at the week that was, and we count down the top 10 things in pop culture that made us go wow. And we're going to begin at number 10.
Number 10.
I have a slight theme this week, you'll find out, and everything's kind of based in and around 1975.
Oh, I have a trivia question about.
Oh, good, because I was 12 years old then. But I went to see the movie The Apprentice, which is all about the apprenticeship of a young Donald Trump by the despicable Roy Cohn. Politics aside for a moment, it's a really good movie. It's well acted. They recreate 70s New York, 80s New York, I think in a very not lavish, but really effective way. It's had criticism because it's a political year, and it is, it's a movie. So they have to take timelines and facts and figures and kind of mush them together, but it feels really accurate.
Jeremy Strong is amazing casting for Roy Cohn Jr. I think he just looks like him.
He became him. You realize how invisible Jeremy Strong is as an actor. And
that's so nice.
So it's amazing.
But I do think that Sebastian Stan is a little too handsome to play Donald.
Except early, they ugly him up over time. But a couple things. First of all, and I'm not giving it, they talk about this humanizes Donald. I don't know if it does that, but it reminded me of what a shithole New York was in 1975.
Yeah.
And how Donald tapped into that fear. This sounds familiar. Stop me. And presented himself as the Robert Redford, as this young buck who was going to change and bring back. It's kind of the Reagan promise, right? I'm going to make America great again, which was a Reagan theme. And so you just understand why people fell for it and are still falling for it. Unfortunately, that's the part that's a little confusing. But the real history lesson for me, and I know this, but it's always good to be reminded, and in a fictional piece it's somewhat easier, that Roy Cohn was a bastard.
Oh God, one of the most loathsome people of the 20th century, easily.
100%. And a flaming gay guy who was totally in the closet publicly, who died of AIDS.
Self-loathing queen who was at the gay clubs, but never admitted he was gay.
Yes. I was reading about the movie afterwards, and there's a debauch scene, like he had a party and it's the after party, and Donald Trump opens the wrong bedroom door and sees everything that's going on in tableau. It's, it's something you might see in a Grecian vase. And they're saying he didn't really have parties like that, but they couldn't really afford to recreate Studio 54, but that was the ambiance. That was the mixture of the celebs, of A-list, of power brokers, and Roy Cohn. And presumably by this movie, and this is all documented somewhere, according to the filmmaker, he had someone in his building who recorded all the conversations that were had in that building and videotape people who were having sex in that building.
Yeah.
That's right. A lot of the compromise. My sister always says when the Republican of today, the senators and the congressmen, that when they follow Trump, she goes, why do they do that? I said, I think it's just for job security. She goes, it's got to be more. It's got to be something more. He has to have something on them.
Well, I do think that, like with Lindsey Graham, I do think there is a deep, dark secret there. And it's not that he's gay. I think that one of the boys died in his presence. I think there's something deeper and darker than just being gay.
And that's what Roy Cohn in this movie, he deals in all of that. threatening to reveal someone's a homosexual.
And of course, that Donald picked all of that up, and Donald was the
these are the three things that Roy Cohn lived by, that he taught Donald Trump: attack, attack, attack.
Yeah.
Like, if they sue you, you sue them. If they sue you twice, sue them twice. Every other tweet that Donald Trump has tweeted in his existence is attacking people, tearing them down, tearing down Kamala Harris. It's like on and on and on and on. Second, there is no truth. You are the truth. Just say it's the truth and it is. So sort of deny, deny, deny. And the third thing is, do not admit defeat even when you lose.
Yeah.
January 6th, ring a bell? It's
sounds like, exactly like him.
And this is where my head went in the film, which again is a really, I think, well acted, well executed film is, and I don't want to get all weird, but it's like most of society, not all, they talk about heaven and hell, and it comes after this world. I think heaven and hell exists right here on this planet. I think good versus evil, and we're all imperfect, but the 10 commandments, the golden rule, things that the rest of us try, maybe not successfully all the time, but try to abide by, are destroyed, are wrecking balled by attack, attack, attack. There is no truth, and don't admit defeat even when you lose. Like they're almost
doubling down to the doubling down thing just always kills me.
Yes, but so they're playing a game. They have no remorse. They have no conscience. Does that make you a sociopath? I don't know.
Well, it's interesting that in the 80s, the rule of Republicans was there was the 11th commandment that Reagan said, "Thou shalt not speak ill of another Republican ever." And Donald Trump, they abided by that for 30 years. And then Trump just threw that out the window and has no compunction about just talking shit about anybody, anywhere, anytime. He's up for the fight.
Because he's not truly a Republican. He was whoever would have him,
Yeah.
My friend Greg was like, I asked him to come to the movie with me. He's like, I can't. He goes, I can't, right? I can't stand sort of a fictionalization of, or, and I'm like, I don't say go to the movie to change your mind, or I don't think people will necessarily, but it's actually a very good movie, and it brings you back to the 70s and 80s in a really dynamic way.
At any point, do you feel sorry for Trump or get some insight into him that makes him a little like?
No, I mean, he is a person, and they show his family and stuff, but like, he makes a deal with the devil. He makes a deal with the devil.
Yeah. And
then he betrays the devil. He ends up being a horrible, when Roy Cohn's, if anything, Roy Cohn is, you feel, you can't help but feel something when he is sort of a pariah. You just go back to the AIDS days and how he's a pariah and no one would talk to him or, do anything. But again, what reprehensible. And that's The Apprentice. It's playing in theaters right now. I say, watch it. We've reached number 9 on the top 10 things this week that made us go, wow, James.
Number 9.
I watched Kettle Lake on Netflix. It's a movie starring Dylan O'Brien from Teen Wolf and The Maze Runner, who is somebody that, Tom, just as you discovered Ariana Grande, I discovered Dylan O'Brien. I am responsible for Dylan O'Brien being famous. So I went into this joyfully, but I've got to tell you, it is the worst damn movie I have ever seen in my entire goddamn life. And I will not be supporting this movie. I will not be telling you to watch it. You say go watch The Apprentice. I say do not watch Kettle Lake. It's just this quagmire of nonsense that makes not a lick of sense whatsoever. Dear God in heaven, it just lacks any sort of cohesive plot line. There's this girl that goes missing in the very beginning. She's on a lake. She's going through a swamp and she goes missing, and she's like an 8-year-old girl. And so there's all these people looking for her, including Dylan O'Brien and this girl and her sister and all these things that everybody's looking for. And it turns out, I think, that the lake is actually a time machine thing where people
like hot tub time machine,
like when you go into a certain bush and you come out in the 1950s type thing. Okay. By the end, I was just doing this. I don't know if the people who are listening, I am crushing my head like a grape because I am just so frustrated and confused by everything that happened. So do not watch this movie. Go see something else with Dylan O'Brien. But
you watched the whole damn thing, didn't you?
And I thought to myself, I'm going to go back and watch it again so I can understand it. I didn't understand any. But then I thought, I am not giving another 2 hours of my life to this silliness.
Again, I'm always shocked that you don't abandon ship at some point. You are you're a completionist.
I am a completist, Tom, and that's why when we're talking about something else, I will read these books that are like 1,000 pages long that I am bored to death with, but I have to get through. It's my OCD. I am a little OCD when it comes to being a completist. Yes.
I guess that's why I get a little bit more beauty rest than you do. I just watch like 10 minutes and then I just go to sleep with the kitties.
Are you suggesting that you look more refreshed or something, and I am not? Is that what
you know? What if that's a compliment? I'll take it, James. Thank you very much. I hadn't thought that myself. I thought it was just my lighting. Anyway, okay, don't see it. Don't go. What's it called again?
Caddo Lake on Netflix. It's like the #1 movie in the country. It's the #1 movie in the world. It's people are going bananas for this, but just really because Dylan O'Brien has turned into quite the dad. He's quite a little daddy now.
Okay, we'll stop you before you get yourself in trouble there. All right, we have reached number 8.
Number 8.
I saw the Sweat Tour with Charlie XCX and Troye Sivan. Now,
I might go tonight. Tell me everything about it.
Well, are you rich or something? Because I just looked up the tickets. They're $300 each.
Well, that's the cheap one.
Yeah.
We are talking to a 12-time Emmy Award winner, Tom Campbell, who has no problem.
Single stay-at-home dad of 2 cats.
Well, be warned that everyone is going to be 12.
Yep.
All of a sudden, like, I've been going to, this is probably my 4th or 5th time seeing Charlie. And all of a sudden, tickets went from, $30 to $300. We went from the Greek Theater to the Forum, which is where this was. It was an interesting setup because it's them co-headlining. So Troy opens it and does like a few songs, and then Charlie
Rush. Does he do Rush, and does he do the Rush dance?
Well, of course, but
what you're saying is they don't. It's not like an opening act and a second act. They swap. So it's like she does 3 songs, he does 3 songs, she does 3 songs, which I think is brilliant. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
I loved it, and it's not that maybe I am a little of the what's the word?
Millennial era,
OCD, anal.
Yeah, the OCD era where it's like I get bored a little too easily. So not that I don't like either of these artists, but it's good to switch it up. And
no, I think it's an innovation in a very traditional form usually.
And the stage was really cool. Like there was this underground tunnel thing that, I mean, luckily for me, I was in the nosebleed so I could see down into the stage. But it was like if you were on ground level, you had to watch the screens, but it was kind of like clubby. Like one would come underground and come up, and then the other one would be on the scaffolding, or it was really cool. I loved it.
I don't think you're gonna see like Beyonce and Fat Joe going back and forth. Like I don't think Lady Gaga is ever going to agree to co-headline.
No, but I think it's a new generation. I think it's a new kind of fame. I feel like people collaborate much more with remixes, and Ariana Grande's been remixing with X. Go ahead.
This isn't a new thing. Remember Justin and Xtina did a co-headlining tour years and years ago. It's just new that they are swapping and sharing it. It's not like one person goes on and then the next person goes on, and then maybe they swap
it. I do think that there are some people who have too much ego to allow someone to.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, definitely.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think Beyonce is ever going to cede her time on stage.
But I think it's different now. I think this is a new generation, and I like it. I like what's happening. I'm listening to music much more lately. I don't know why.
Now, Blake, you have talked to us about Charlie XCX ad infinitum. So
I made her famous.
Yes, you discovered her.
Yes, but I'm wondering if you've never seen Troy before, and what do you think of him in his stage show?
I loved it. And I heard that there was a rumor that Ariana Grande was supposed to be there, but at the last minute had to cancel because if you know anything, the Brat remix album just came out, and Sympathy as a Knife features Ariana Grande. Troye Sivan has a song with Ariana Grande, and every time I go to a concert, I look at the set list so I know when I can like leave and beat the crowd and get out of there, you know, even my favorites like Charlie XCX. He had a song with Ariana and it wasn't on the set list. So I was like, oh, maybe she is going to be here. But then it was just a screen. But Kesha was there.
Fabulous.
Kesha showed up. She is on a track called Spring Breakers on the remix album. And then Tate McRae has a song with Troye Sivan, and she came out.
McRae, I keep hearing about.
Well,
is she a person that, like with Andrew Tate? Are they the same?
No, nothing at all.
Nothing to do with Sharon Tate or Larry Tate from Bewitched. None of those.
But I would say if you can afford to go tonight in San Diego, Sunday in San Francisco, Tuesday in Portland, and then it wraps up Wednesday in Seattle.
Yeah. And we love Troye Sivan, and I've seen him in concert. I can't wait to see him again. But Charlie XCX, who has been around, but she has earned this.
Exactly.
This is her moment. And I like that Kamala and her, like the Brat thing and the Kamala Brat, like it's just, it feels like she is sort of the center of, and there's a lot of great artists right now who all are changing things, but she feels like she's at the center of all of it.
I wore my Kamala as Brat shirt.
Yeah.
You can borrow it.
All right.
If you go.
All right. All right.
I did want to tell you guys that we just celebrated 5 years of RuPaul's Drag Race UK.
Oh, that's crazy.
And we have revealed all the UK queens coming to RuPaul's DragCon UK 2025. So be sure to get your tickets at RuPaul'sDragCon.com. It'll be January 10th and 11th in London.
It's always a good time. It's always a good time. All right, Blake, do you have a trivia question for us?
I do. And this one is perfect for you guys. Not that fitting, you know, but I just feel like it's a perfect question for you two, old queen.
Okay.
I was going to say, I hear some ageism in that.
Well, not
Bewitched.
Well, yeah, it's about older, the golden age of you know,
of queendom.
I'm here for it.
What American actress is the reason why 50% of the nail salons in the United States are owned by people of Vietnamese descent? It looks like Tom knows.
Yes, we'll have the answer to that question and so much more as we continue the countdown here on the Wow Report on Radio Andy. Don't go anywhere.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back. It's the Wow Report with Tom Campbell, Jane St. James, and Blake Jacobs. Fenton Bailey is somewhere in Europe, so look for him if you're listening to us from there. Right before we went to commercial, Blake asked us this trivia question.
Yes. What American actress is the reason why 50% of the nail salons in the United States are owned by people of Vietnamese descent? James, do you have a guess? Because I think Tom knows.
I can't eat. I'm trying to think of a Vietnamese actress from like the 1950s.
I think I've mentioned this in the Wow Report. Not that I remember anything you've ever said, so don't feel bad. I'm going to give you a bizarre tip.
Clue. Give me a clue.
Oh, well, the clue is tip. It's like what do French manicures have at the end?
White.
It's Tippi Hedren.
What? Why? I don't get it.
Tippi Hedren was just an activist, and
the Vietnam War ended in 1975, and the U.S. brought like 140,000 refugees over. And there were some people that wanted to help them train and like get jobs. And so she created this program in Northern California. It wasn't about nails or anything, but all the women, the Vietnamese women admired her nails. So she brought in her manicurist named Dusty Coots. Don't you love that name?
But isn't that an amazing legacy? Isn't that an amazing legacy that she created? Like livelihood.
A number of amazing legacies. She's actually a fascinating woman.
Yep. All right. Well, there you have it. Thank you. It's an excellent trivia question because we learned something. So thank you, Blake.
You're welcome.
We are counting down the top 10 things that made us go wow, and we are now at number 7.
Number 7.
I told you my theme was 1975. And I went to see the movie Saturday Night. and it's about the first episode of Saturday Night Live, which premiered in 1975. And I've told this story before I get into the movie, which I kind of liked. Saturday Night Live changed my young life. I was like 12 years old, and I may have told you the story before, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be mean, but my father worked at Gauthier and Woodard Insurance Company for 25 years. Al Gauthier was his boss. Ruth Gauthier was his beautiful, refined wife. They didn't have any children. They lived in an elegant, childless home with beautiful cars. It was a brick building. They invited our whole family over for dinner. Thing is, and she's passed on, I'm not being too rude, Ruth Gauthier, lovely woman, was diabetic, but still had a couple of drinks. So at some point, her blood sugar was off, and so dinner got postponed, and we were still there, and they kind of made us kids go into the den to watch the color TV, which we didn't have at the time. And so we were there so long that we watched the first episode of Saturday Night Live by accident. I wouldn't have been up, but we were just waiting for Mrs. Gauthier to get better. And my brother, sister, and I, and in this strange circumstance, it was sort of embarrassing because it was sort of embarrassing happening to, like, you know, an adult. And we weren't making fun of her. It was uncomfortable. And she was fine. But we watched Saturday Night Live, and it blew my hat off and blew my head. And there's interesting articles, and, you know, was Saturday Night Live so innovative? It was a cultural shift because, you know, in the movie, and there's some pretension, and you've got to be pretentious to make any change in this world. But Lorne Michaels is like, we're making something that's never been seen before. And there's some articles in the New York Times and stuff that say, come on, the Carol Burnett show, you know, led to this. Sid Caesar's Your Show of Shows. But
no, come on, Land Shark.
Yes. and that cast
of
unknown
child,
people.
the blood going everywhere. Oh my God.
And what
Bumblebee
is
sketch? Oh my God. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
No, it's incredible. And it can be so absurdist at times. And that's the part. It seemed cultural.
There were also things like, you know, I mean, it got very serious sometimes, and it got very sort of surreal. There was the Mr. Bill show, which was, I mean,
yeah.
But you also have, like, remember when Gilda was Candy Slice, the punk rocker?
Yes.
I mean, like, that wasn't funny at all, but it was shocking. It
yes.
was just, there were just moments that were just shocking that had absolutely nothing to do with humor.
So it did change the world. The movie wants to make that point. Here's the one thing. This is the structure of it, which is very clever, and it's hard to make a movie. So I'm not sitting here, you know, it's still worth seeing, but it's the whole premise of the movie is it's 90 minutes until the first live episode of Saturday Night Live hits the airwaves.
So it's not minute by minute is
yes.
sort of what it is. Yes. Okay.
And they're very clever. They're very poetic, and they explore everybody's storyline. They go in and out, but I just don't believe it all happened 90 minutes before the first show.
Right.
You're just like, they knew that you can't, you have to know how long your show was. Presumably there was a rehearsal. And at one point, because here's the tension. This is the tension of the movie, and it's a spoiler. I don't care. You're led to believe that Dick Ebersol, who took over Saturday Night Live, he was a network executive. He took over Saturday Night Live when Lorne left for that little period, and he's kind of maligned in the whole thing. He's kind of a goofball and whatever. And at one point, they have a big confrontation. He goes, "Don't you understand? I'm on your side." To Lorne, he goes, "I've been trying to protect you." He goes, "Don't you realize they want you to fail? Why do you think they brought you and all these unknown people to do this live television show?" And presumably, Johnny Carson was up for contract negotiations, and so they greenlit this television show as a negotiation to be like, listen, we got something in the wings, Johnny. And I won't tell you the last part because it is the very last part, but it's all about that. This was all destined to fail. It was picked up. It was greenlit to fail. And so against all odds, they got it going.
I have heard that one of the complaints about the movie is that it is not funny at all. There's like not a single joke in it.
It's not a funny movie. It's not a funny movie. It's
I mean, isn't that sort of going against what it is that you're trying to do?
Well, that's why I wish they had released. I mean, it's a fascinating story. I wish they could have been like the pitch meeting for the movie, you know, for the show. They could have done it, and then maybe done the 90 minutes before in the last act to lead you up to it or something.
Then I would like to have seen Gilda, her trying out for it, and I would like to see her, you know, interactions with John Belushi and Bill Murray, and
it was, well, Bill Murray was the first episode, but it's like, you know, Chevy Chase is represented. I brought my friend Hector, who is 88 years old, and remembers that day, and he's like, it wasn't funny at all. He was at the end, he was like,
do you know who Dylan O'Brien played?
No.
He was Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah. Dan Aykroyd.
He didn't look like Dylan O'Brien in the movie though.
No,
but he was hot. He was definitely daddy, like you were saying earlier.
I was afraid that knowing the original character so well, it would take me out a little bit, but like actors did a really good job of grabbing the essence and the physicality of it all.
But you know, so much of the story of that first cast of, you know, Saturday Night Live is the way that they all hated each other, and the way that so I would have liked to have seen a year one of Saturday Night Live. And
although again, it's all artfully put in. It's just not believable in the time frame. But Belushi and Chevy Chase get into it. Chevy Chase has a huge ego boost and already is not part of the cast.
And Jane Curtin loathes them all.
Yes, and the women are all together and kind of hiding from the guys. And Garrett Morris is like, "Why am I here? What did you even hire me for? Why am I playing the butler?" You know, I mean, it's still a rich movie. It's still worth seeing. It's still an amazing time in history. But I bumped up a little bit against that 90 minutes. And also, there are people say, "Oh, it slows down 3/4 of the way through," and that was my favorite part. It's like it was because it was all frenzy, camera turns, tits, you know, and it would always say like 10:15 and then be 10:16. That was always it was like time is ticking away. Anyway, that's Saturday night, about the first episode of Saturday Night Live, playing in theaters now. All right, let's move on to number 6.
Number 6.
I watched the pilot episode of the new Matlock starring Kathy Bates, which is, you know, we've talked on the show about how this is going to be her last thing that she's ever going to do before she retires. And we hope that it lasts 12 seasons. Well, I really do hope it will last 12 seasons. It was a really great episode. And you talk about a twist ending. I'm going to give away the spoiler right here. It's a gender swapped reboot of the old, you know, Andy Griffith show, and where she plays a lawyer at a prestigious law firm, and she comes on and she hasn't practiced. She hasn't been in the workforce in 30 years, and she comes on and she's sort of like this mousy little woman who wants very much to get back into the workforce because she says her husband is gone and she has to support her grandson, and her grandson hates her, and she's just, you know, she's broke and she needs the money, and she's, you know, but she's not sure if she can do it. And they said they don't really want her, but she says it's ageism if they don't hire her. So they hire her for this like 2-week you know, trial basis. And she's bumbling and not that good. And she screws up this big case that they're working on, and everyone is furious with her. But then near the end, she pulls this like Columbo, like out of her butt.
Yes.
She saves the day, and she does this really brilliant turnaround where they win the case. And after they win the case, they sort of are softening to her a little bit, and they feel sorry for her, and she comes on full time, and they say, well, let's go out for victory drinks. Let's go out and celebrate. And she says, I can't, I've got to take the bus home. It's 3 buses to get to my apartment, and it's going to take a long time. So she goes off to get the bus, but then she gets off after the first stop, and she's is responsible, and so she's gonna figure out which one.
So James, you described it really well, but you could have unlocked. It's basically Hannah Montana.
yes it is. Or Bewitched, where she has to hide her true powers.
I have to say, I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to watch it because when it was they kept the secret, and you know, before it aired. But it was like, oh, she's Matlock, but she's not Matlock. Everyone thought this is the lamest reboot ever. And then that twist, you're like, oh, yeah.
Well, but the beauty of it is you talk about what it really is. It really is a Columbo, where, you know.
Well, Matlock, he was bumbling too. I think he was underestimated.
It's just wonderful to see her on screen, and she just has a presence that you love Kathy Bates no matter what she does. Absolutely. So I'm gonna watch. I don't watch much CBS. I know you are the target demographic, Tom, but I don't watch.
I just assumed you watched Matlock on your AARP app or something.
I just signed up for AARP for the discounts. You don't have to be 50.
What?
Yep.
I love that Blake is in on it early. Go,
Yep.
Blake.
And
younger people, Blake.
And I'm going to help you even more. You can go to www.worldofwonder.net/wow report and you can watch the first episode of Matlock. It's on YouTube.
Well, I think I honestly think everyone will enjoy it. And I do hope it lasts 12 years. I hope it's like an Angela Lansbury,
awesome,
Murder She Wrote thing.
All right. Now we have reached the point in our countdown that we call number 5.
Number 5.
Do you guys really like scary movies? Like, do you like the gory stuff?
Sometimes I have to be in the right mood for it, but yeah, I can do it. I can't do it by myself alone at home. I have to go to the theater to do it.
I am so I feel every bludgeon, everything I feel. So I'm not the candidate.
Well, definitely don't go see this. This is Terrifier 3. It is the new #1 movie in America, actually. People, I guess, expect a Joker fully adieu to still be on top, but so it's kind of funny that Art the Clown, another clown, coupled them.
Aren't there a number of Joker jokes in it where he is? I think maybe he's been standing beside Joker's. The Terrifier's been standing beside a grave of Joker, and he's pissing on it or something.
Maybe I didn't catch it in the movie, and maybe
it might just be viral for to sell it. Yeah.
This is exactly what you would want it to be, full of gore and super, super gore. Tom, you would hate it.
I admit that I've seen the trailer because of you telling Theron. Theron said, "Do you want to go see Terrifier 3?" And I looked at the trailer and I was horrified.
No, you would not like it.
The trailer is very scary. The trailer is terrifying. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, this is the third one. The first one came out in 2016 and nobody really knew about it. I started hearing about it when Terrifier 2 came out because it was kind of the same formula.
It was building in popularity with each progressive one.
Well, and it's the same formula where, oh my God, people are passing out in the movie theaters from this.
And it's the old Roger Corman thing where they have a nurse and an ambulance outside the theater just to scare you. Yes.
Well, the movie was whatever. Actually, I think the second one was better. But this is a good option because it's set at Christmas time, so you can watch it at Christmas.
That's very smart because what I think they do is they have it come out in the theaters for Christmas or for Halloween, and then it comes out on streaming in December for Christmas, and you get double the hits.
Yeah, this one I think the second one is actually better, but who really goes for story or anything? You're just going to see people get splashed up. The worst part was the audience. The girl.
Were you one where they screamed back and they were shouting and everything?
Well, that's fine. But it's the girl next to me was on her phone the entire time with the brightness turned up to high. The people behind me were talking the entire time. Like, oh my God, did you see that? Or maybe trying to explain the lore of this dumb movie. And then the worst was 10 minutes into the movie, this cool dad walks in with, 5 12-year-old kids who are also taking pictures of the screen, Snapchatting it or whatever they're doing now.
Whatever these kids are doing.
These whippersnappers. They get to
says Mr. Arp.
Yeah, AARP. So Art the Clown has an accomplice in this one, and it's a woman. She's from the first couple, but I still couldn't really tell you who she was. But there's a point where she masturbates with a knife. Oh. And that's when the dad, I guess, realized what he had brought these kids to, and they all got up and left. So,
wow.
Don't take your kids to see Terrifier 3.
I have one question after seeing the trailer.
What?
How much ragu spaghetti sauce did they use on this set? It's just one big, red sauce.
It's like the end of the substance for the whole movie, basically.
Totally.
But my question is it based on Marilyn Manson? He looks exactly like Marilyn Manson to me.
I don't think it's based on him.
We'll leave that with our lawyers, James.
Matlock.
So tell me the name of the movie again.
Terrifier 3.
Terrifier 3, and you're saying you don't have to know 1 and 2 to enjoy 3, I think is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Isn't that amazing? Well, that's filmmaking.
It does look really scary though, because I saw the trailer, I think before The Substance, and it looks very scary.
The best thing is the budget. You know, now they actually have a little bit of a budget to do all the ragu. So
lots of ragu.
You know what other trailers I saw before The Substance? As a matter of fact, I just
Don't
wanted to
tell us what.
the Nicole Kidman where the intern, where she fucks the intern. Have you seen that?
I know that's happening. I haven't seen the trailer. No,
it's fantastic. Harris Dickinson is the intern, and he's very hot. And then the other one was the one with the Russian hooker.
On Hora or something.
Yeah, that looks really fantastic. It's the guy who did Tangerine, right? The director
with Selena Gomez, and that one. There's a movie with Selena Gomez and somebody else that looks really artsy fartsy. Anyway, we'll figure it out.
Well, I do want to just say to all of our listeners that Wow Presents Plus is the place to see all international versions of Drag Race here in the U.S. New episodes of Drag Race España on Sundays, Drag Race Philippines on Wednesdays, RuPaul's Drag Race UK on Thursdays, Global All-Stars on Fridays, and new seasons of Drag Race Thailand and Down Under are coming very soon. Sign up at
moly.
I know. Sign up at wowpresentsplus.com.
Thank you, Blake.
Craziness.
All right. We're going to go to a quick break, but you're listening to the Wow Report, and we're going to continue the countdown when we come back. It's a Radio Andy Wow Report. Don't go anywhere.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
And we are back. You are listening to the Wow Report here on Radio Andy, where we count down the top 10 things the week that make us go wow. And we are at number 4.
Number 4.
I think I mentioned twice in this show, and I'll do it one more time. My theme is
1975.
There's a documentary that came out last year that I did not see, that I went online to see, and it's called Studio One Forever, and it's a documentary about the famous gay disco on Robertson, right across from what is the Abbey now. And James, did you ever go to Studio One, or were you on the East Coast?
I know the space, and that's the space that Cherry was in for many years. So I know I've been to the space. Yes.
And it became the Factory afterwards and whatnot. But in 1975, a guy named Scott Forbes, who was, I think, like an eye doctor in Boston, called his mother and said, I'm leaving Boston, I'm leaving my practice, and I'm going to open a gay discotheque in 1974 or 75. And this is before Studio 54. A lot of people, Steve Rebell came out at one point to see Studio One. They think that Studio 54 was, inspired by what happened there. And the premise of the film is they were tearing the building down. And it is an old it was like a factory during World War II or something. It's just like, it's like a really ugly building. And there's all these pictures of these beautiful boys who don't look like boys do look today. And there was one funny thing about, they didn't call them Twinkies back then. They called them chickens.
Yeah,
I think I have heard that. Yeah.
But chickens and tricks. Twinks were tricks as well. Which has nothing to do with the hooker trick.
Exactly. So John Duran, who's a longtime West Hollywood councilman, who's in his 60s, and a bunch of guys are approaching the building. They go into the empty, building, and they're fighting to keep it from being torn down. And in doing that, they untell the whole story. So Scott Forbes was the guy. He ended up dying. He got AIDS, but he ended up not dying of AIDS, but dying of plastic surgery that he couldn't handle because he had been HIV positive for so long. So it's a good gay story, but it doesn't. I'm dwelling on the memory of the AIDS stories, but they save that for the end, and the rest about it is celebration and how there was also a back room, the back lot. And it was a performance space. And they were just talking about how that little thing, it felt very New York. It was super gay upstairs. It was super gay dancing, but they attribute it to a heart attack that Bob Fosse had while preparing Chicago on Broadway with Liza Minnelli and Chita Rivera. And he had a heart attack.
Story of all that jazz.
Yes. And they had to stop the production because of the heart attack. And so Chita Rivera had nothing to do, and Liza Minnelli, such a bag, was married to Jack
Haley Jr.
Yeah. And they said, Chita, you need your own cabaret show. And she's never done that before. She's only been on Broadway. So they created a show for her, which they started in New York. And when they took it to LA, it opened the backlot room at this gay club. And they said Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly, every friend from Hollywood would come, to this thing. And so it was this merging of gay culture and straight culture, which was the 70s, right? Which was gay liberation before AIDS. Everyone felt like it was like, this is where it's fun. And it felt like New York, and it felt downtown. And there was just so much to celebrate. And I wrote so many notes, but go on.
I went to the Gay VN Awards there.
There you go. I mean, it's been great. And in 1975, it's famous. The New York premiere of the movie Tommy that Alan Carr threw was in a subway station. It was very famous. Well, the LA version in 1975 happened at Studio One. And like Paul and Linda McCartney were there, Diana Ross, Anne Margaret, the Smothers Brothers, David Frost, Peter Townsend, Marty Allen, just on and on. The people, and Eartha Kitt would play in that room, and Lucille Ball would come and see Liz Torres and Peter Allen and Geraldine Fitzgerald, and just endless integration.
Synergy is what was the word.
Yes. And they have Rosalind Kind. They talked to so many people, but Rosalind Kind, who's Barbara Streisand's sister or half sister, she got her break there, and the gays just loved her. And Joan Rivers used to do a lot of her material there and try it out. And then they have Melissa Rivers on, and she reminded that the very first AIDS benefit ever took place at the Backlot, and it was Joan Rivers, when nobody's even before Elizabeth Taylor, just timing wise, and that they got death threats, and that they got a bodyguard for Melissa at school because they were death threats to their family. And they decided to bring Melissa, who was in high school, with them that night, with the notion that, well, if they blow the place up, at least the family will be together. It touches me so deeply. So I can go on, and I won't, but you can get it, I pay like whatever, $5.99, and you can watch it on Google, you can watch it on Amazon, you can watch it on YouTube. You have to pay for it, but
video on demand.
I can't thank you. That's what it's called. That's what they call it today. It's really beautiful. And spoiler alert, they are redeveloping that whole area as everything, but they took down and have saved the Studio One and are going to resurrect the building, and somehow the architecture is going to be around it. It's not the same, but nothing stays the same. But at least there is this recognition of there was this glorious time where it was a safe space for gay people to be celebrated and to love each other. And it's not all rainbows and butterflies, but you can't deny our past, and the strides that were made. Anyway, that's Studio One forever on demand. Moving on to number 3.
Number 3.
I finally finished this biography of George Platt Lyne called The Daring Eye, which Fenton got me for Christmas 4 years ago. It has been sitting on my shelf ever since then. It is a 650-page book.
God bless you.
But not only is it 650 pages, the font is really teeny tiny that you need like a magnifying glass to read it. So it's actually more like 1,200 or 1,400 pages is what you're actually reading. George Platt Lyne was a photographer in the 20s and 30s and 40s. Mostly he died in the 1950s, but he was a fashion photographer along the lines of like Horst and Louise Dahl Wolf, for Vanity Fair, Vogue, Harper's Bazaar. He was also a surrealist photographer, and that's where he sort of made his mark. He was in a lot of museum exhibitions at a time when photography was not taken seriously, and it was not considered art, and he sort of helped elevate it into the field of art. But the most interesting thing about George Platt Lyne was that he was in a throuple in the 1920s with the novelist Glenway Westcott and art world bigwig Monroe Wheeler. And they were impossibly beautiful and impossibly glamorous. And they were on the Riviera in the 20s and 30s with Zelda Fitzgerald and F. Scott Fitzgerald and the Hemingways and the Murphys. And they were just accepted wherever they went. And they were just considered the pinnacle of gay culture. And they were just, like I said, this hot threesome at a time when there was not even a word for, there was not, you didn't even know menage a trois, but they were three people, and it lasted like 20 years. And a lot of the book is the dynamics between them, where Glenway Westcott was the novel. He was a little more into George than George was into him. And they'll be out sunbathing nude, and he'd be like, stick your tongue back in your mouth. It ain't gonna happen tonight, Glenway. And George was a little more into Monroe Wheeler, and who was, just so handsome. God, so handsome. And the funny thing is, George was like 19 years old, and he met the two of them, and they were already in a relationship. And he just said that first night he met them, he was like, I'm going to be a part of this. You are going to love me too. And by God, the next day they're all fucking. And it's just, it's a fascinating history. You talk about your history of gays, and this is, pre-Stonewall, pre.
Yeah.
But it's also during that sort of heady period in the 20s and 30s when it was just considered, de rigueur that you were going to hang out with the gays in New York City and Paris and London and the Riviera. And they sort of traveled that whole thing.
If we pulled the camera back a little bit, would we see two mannequins that you call, like that you pretend that you role play that you're in that relationship? Good for you for reading that huge book. I need to, I don't know.
It took me about 5 months to get through it. But like I told you before the show, I am a completist. And once I start, my OCD kicks in and I have to finish.
And what's the name of the book again?
It's called The Daring Eye.
The Daring Eye. Excellent. Yeah. All right. We are now getting right down there. Number 2.
Number 2.
Let's talk about Halloween costume ideas 2024. What you got?
The lady on the plane saying, "You aren't real." Was that this year or was that a year ago?
I think that was like 3 years ago.
Is that 4 years ago? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What's a big meme? What's a big meme this year?
Okay, so Time Magazine is saying Shrunken Head Bob from Beetlejuice.
Sure.
Okay, sure.
Rachel Reagan.
Oh, right. Yeah, the dancer at the
Olympics.
Yeah, right. The break dancer.
Okay. Yep.
And then we've got some characters from Inside Out 2, Envy.
These are not memes though. These are not things that gays are gonna do. What are the gays gonna do?
Well, you tell me.
Just put slutty in front of whatever he just said, and that's what the gays are going to do.
Right. Slutty Inside Out character.
You're the gay that we're all leaning towards.
Well, the only meme I remember is the girl saying you weren't real on the
airplane. From 2017.
Yes, from 2017.
Well,
I have to lose 20 more pounds before I consider Halloween costumes. I just don't like putting on funny clothes, and then I feel like weird.
What about Chimp Crazy?
Oh, Chimp Crazy, that's a good one. Tanya from Chimp Crazy, sure.
Riley from the House of Avalon. Check her Instagram. She's already dressed up as Chimp Crazy, and it's amazing. Another one is Diddy related costumes. Like people are going to be dressing as TMZ predicts the Diddler. So it's like the Riddler, but it's Diddy with like.
I would just go as baby oil. I would be baby oil.
That's another thing people are doing. Yeah.
Thank you.
I was a fried egg at my friend Adam's birthday / costume party.
Well, then you've already indulged.
I stole it. I stole the costume from the Wow basement, like in 2017.
I love that you work someplace where you can steal a fried egg costume.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then feel free to talk about it because you're going to pay, my friend. You're going to pay.
We started on Trixie stealing my turkey outfit and turning it into her entire career.
Okay, we won't.
Because everyone, they see the turkey outfit and they're like, "Oh, it's Trixie," but actually it was me who did it.
Story of James's life. He's always right there.
Post-it notes, James' idea.
Yeah.
Right.
Liquid whiteout.
Yeah. All right. Well, we definitely thank you. We'll if you have any Halloween costume suggestions, go as James St. James. I always say, put a hump and put some blue glitter on. You look like James St. James. We are down to our number one thing that makes us go wow, but we won't reveal that until after this commercial. Don't go anywhere. It's the Wow Report on Radio Andy.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back. It's the Wow Report, where we have been counting down the top 10 things of the week that made us go wow. And we've reached number one.
Number one.
And number one is a celebrity that everyone knows now, but I discovered her. It's true. I discovered her for the Wow Report. Ariana Grande on SNL this past weekend.
Just
what
magnificent, a masterclass in how to host the show.
It's so incredible. And we know all this about her anyway. And yet, you know, we've had her on Drag Race. We've seen her. She's hosted Saturday Night Live before. She has amazing stuff when she goes on Jimmy Fallon. You know, her music is incredible. Her voice is incredible. But she was, you know, the season is still picking up steam, but she was undeniable. So funny. I mean, her opening number was a great, you know, very great conceit where she was going to keep it low key. And then she ends up doing everything she says she's not going to do. And someone said she's the only artist in the world whose voice is even more beautiful live than it is when it's on records, I think.
But you know, but she does those impersonations. She does the of the P in that opening number. Tom,
yes,
who did she do?
She did Britney. She did
Miley. She did Gwen Stefani.
Yes. Later, she did an incredible Celine Dion in like a parody of that NFL thing with
the wrestling. Yes.
And then supposedly there was a very typical sketch on Saturday Night Live where a family's playing charades, but you know, and she played the mother of the gay guy who brought Bowen Yang home, and she was very competitive. And when Bowen Yang started to win, she started shaming him by basically saying he had a little dick. And the writers and her performance and the writing, it was like so many ways, you could say little dick. I should have written them down, but I didn't. That just made me laugh. But and she was in a character like you like such a believable character. And I read afterwards, she said she was channeling her mom. So she does her mom. So she does her mom. She does Celine Dion. She does the whole thing.
The two that stuck out to me though, the first of all with the Castrati sketch was just absolutely hysterical, and it kept getting funnier. And her expression is the Castrati, who lost her balls. The little boy who lost his balls was so funny. But I'm wondering, do you think, Tom, in your heart of hearts, that sketch was about was sort of referencing puberty blockers in 2024?
No.
Come on, that the whole point is that they were stopping her from having the boy from having a voice, from going through puberty.
Well, it really happened, right?
Well, yes, but why do you bring it up in 2024 unless you're referencing something that is going on in pop culture right now, an argument that people are having?
Well, you read many more books, much smaller print than I do, so I'm going to defer to you on that.
Well, anyway, but the other one that was the video that they had where she is smelling her best friend's house, and she's talking about how much she loves the smell of her best friend's house.
And all of a sudden, it's Pee Wee Herman, like couches are singing. It was incredible production.
And if you remember growing up, your friend's houses always did smell so different than your own. It was always such a
always the weird thing is that your house smells too. You just don't know what it smells like.
Exactly. You wonder what people think when they walk into your house. But then at the very end, there was the twist where it turns out that it was a serial killer house.
Yeah.
It was very silly. But I thought that was beautifully. I thought the video was.
What was the sketch that she did with Chloe Fonman and Dana Carvey as
it was? They played multiple Jennifer Coolidges.
Yeah.
Oh yes, that was good.
It wasn't even that successful, but her impersonation was incredible. Anyway, Ariana Grande, we bow to thee. You are the greatest star of all time. And I can't tell you, I also saw when I was at Saturday Night, the movie, I saw the first time I saw the full trailer, or the current full trailer to Wicked, and I can't wait. I can't wait.
That who's Fiyero is played by our
Jonathan Bailey.
Jonathan Bailey, and when he sings, what's the song, The Life, it's Dancing Through Life, and it just looks absolutely magnificent. It just, everything about it, just, yeah.
Well, unfortunately, we've run out of time. We're going to continue talking about Jonathan Bailey off air. Okay, is that okay, James? We have to sign off now. But we'll keep talking, and we'll come things. But thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week, same time, same place. Fenton Bailey, wherever you are, safe travels. And until we meet again, go out and do something that makes the world go wow.